Welcome again to Joe Stunner Boxing. All the fun of the fair at the press conference, the kick-off press conference, the kicking off press conference between Fabio Wardley and Big Baby Miller, Jarrell Miller. This fight is scheduled to take place on June the 7th, although it almost happened today, which is April the 7th. This is becoming repetitive, isn't it? Where you have fighters flipping tables at press conferences and effing and blinding at each other and making accusations against each other, all this sort of crap. Well, first of all, it's at Portman Road, Ipswich Town Stadium. Wardley is an Ipswich Town fan, from Ipswich. Miller turns up wearing a Norwich top, like he knows where the fuck Norwich is. Never mind, he doesn't understand. I don't really understand football. Maybe I'm wrong, but two East Anglian teams, so he's making a statement there. But then they get into it, and it gets to the point where they're both yapping about each other's records, and Miller says that Wardley's got no bollocks, and Wardley comes back and says, well, I picked you as an opponent, you idiot, what are you talking about? And Miller's not happy. He starts huffing and puffing, and then he flips into total pedhead mode, because Wardley's sort of taking the piss out of him and out of his resume, saying that he got a draw with Joey Dewecko, and then Miller comes back and says, well, you lost a journeyman, and it's all a bit playgroundy. But like I say, Miller then flips, and he gets up and says, well, we can go right now. So up jumps Wardley, no problem, let's do it. And then there's a scuffle, and the security get involved in about 5 or 6 big 18-stone geezers to hold Miller back. Miller's the one that's raging. He really is raging. Wardley looks a bit sort of perplexed. He's like, what? And then Miller starts going on about some track that Wardley supposedly made called Big Baby Killer or something like this. I don't know. Later on, Wardley would say, I don't know what he's talking about. Apparently there was some AI track that was made, but I had nothing to do with it. Saying that Miller was going to get ironed out by Wardley. But Miller's not happy with this. Oh, no. The switch has been flipped, and suddenly he's, where I'm from, you say that to someone, that's serious stuff, killer, you're going to kill me, and there's a big scuffle. Miller's not sitting down. When he eventually, Frank Warren takes the mic and says, let's knock it on the head, let's all sit down. So Miller sits down, he gets up again, starts again on Wardley. And by this point, Wardley's like, what are you talking about? I don't know what you're, you silly bastard, what are you talking about? Totally sort of bewildered. And to be honest, Wardley was looking a bit flustered in the sense that, I don't know what this guy's talking about. I mean, what have I done? I haven't done anything. And he made the mistake, which is always a mistake, of trying to, reason with someone who's entirely unreasonable. I think Miller, look, you know my opinion on Miller. I don't even think he should be allowed to fight. I think his entire resume should be all those fights should be changed to no contests. He's a serial pedhead, a serial PED abuser, user, whatever you want to call it. He shouldn't be allowed anywhere near a boxing ring. He's making a lot of money, despite the fact that he has endangered the lives of other fighters in an unreasonable way. I see no difference between, the famous Lewis Resto fight against Billy Collins when the padding was taken out of his glove and he beat Collins up with basically bare fists, cheating that way and endangering someone's life that way. And if you know the story, Billy Collins never fought again and it actually committed suicide. And Resto was banned for life. As was his trainer. I see no difference between that and taking PEDs to the extent that Miller did. I mean, taking PEDs anyway, but when you take them to the extent that Miller did, all bets are off. I mean, the guy should be slung out of the sport, the fat cunt. He's just a cheating coward as far as I'm concerned. And yeah, he still weighs, 300 pounds or whatever it is. I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck how exciting he is, how much talent he's got. You've completely bypassed all that by becoming basically a junkie. And that's what he is. He's a junkie. He's no different really from a crackhead or a smackhead, like a cast iron entrenched drug addict. It's just that he uses PEDs instead of, street drugs. Although some PEDs are street drugs, but you know what I mean? So this is all, to me, Miller, I think Miller talks a lot of trash, but he obviously don't like it up him. Because Wardley is quite an articulate guy and will come back at you. And also, Wardley's got some spite. I mean, I don't like them. I'm not going to go into it now. I'm not going to do a prediction video now, but I don't like the matchup for Wardley because Miller, whatever you say about him, and I've just said a few disparaging things about him, he's got a good engine and he takes a wallop, as we saw against Dubois. He's not someone I would dismiss as being anything less than a threat to any heavyweight in the world, any of them, because he's very, very tough. Very, very big, very, very powerful, very, very tough. So I don't like the matchup for Wardley, but at the same time, Wardley has a lot of spite about him, and if you put it on him, he'll come good. There have been a couple of occasions where he's been a little bit buzzed. I think Eric Molina buzzed him a little bit just before he got knocked out. There was one other fight where he got slightly shaken, and then he's it's like a switch has been flicked, and suddenly he's on you. Well, I've been a little bit tagged here. I need to go to work, and he does. But whether he's got the power to get rid of Miller like he has his other opponents, I mean, Fraser Clark's a big man, but he's not as big as Miller. Fraser Clark was flawed when in the first round, in the first fight against Wardley, and then he got starched in the opening round of the second fight. But Miller's a different proposition. And to be honest, I still don't trust him. Just because your body turns to fucking, like a melted chocolate sundae when you stop taking PEDs, it doesn't mean that you're still not taking some of them. Not all PEDs are designed to make you body beautiful. So I think this is quite a bad matchup for Wardley, but the spite is there with Wardley, and I think he'll probably take that into this fight. Of course, he doesn't want to become, too sort of emotional about it. The head must rule the heart in a boxing ring. But Miller, I think he was just trying to pep himself up. I think he was just looking for an excuse to, when he couldn't out-talk and slap down Wardley verbally, and Wardley started prodding and poking him, Miller suddenly jumped up and thought, okay. He lost control of his temper. And Frank Warren, of course, must be loving this. I mean, he said, I don't approve of it. Sorry about the language to everyone, and blah blah. Let's all sit down. Let's all take questions from those in attendance. I won't call them journalists because not all of them are journalists nowadays. They're just people like me, YouTubers. But he must be secretly thinking, "Oh, this sells the fight." They all do. These promoters. The bottom line with any promoter is the pound note or the dollar, pound coin or the dollar. So I don't think he cares that much, but yeah, it does sort of set the table for what is definitely going to be a grudge match. But then I thought Miller would try this sort of shit. He always does. He wound up Dubois. He's picked a fight with AJ out of the ring and all this sort of. He's just so full of shit, Miller. Yeah, kick him out of boxing, for fuck's sake. Come on. Do we need people like that in boxing? I don't think so. But some people probably don't care. They don't have any scruples about the moral side of it. They're just like, nah, let him fight. He's entertaining. Anyway, what do you think? What did you think of this? Was it all a case of handbags, or is there something deeper? They obviously don't like each other, but tell me what you think, as usual. And if you like this very green video, very green, isn't it? Yeah, hit the like button. And if you're new to the channel, subscribe, because it takes you a second, don't cost you nothing, and you help with the channel out. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I'm looking forward to reading your comments. Bye for now.